It's 2 months since a young woman, a doctor, was raped and killed at her place of work at the RG Kaur Medical College in Kolkata. 2 months later, doctors are on a hunger strike in the city of Kolkata, and there have been mass resignations by senior doctors to show their solidarity. But the issue seems to have fallen off the national map. Well, we're here to change that. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. Our focus today returns to the city of Kolkata, where these images have created a stir. What you see on your screen is a long line of doctors, and what are they doing? They are resigning. As of now, these resignations are symbolic, but they could turn real. These are mass resignations by more than 40 doctors, 48 at last count, senior doctors who are doing this to express their solidarity with the agitation that was and is still being led by the junior doctors of Kolkata, in particular, the doctors of the Arjikor Medical College, where a young woman doctor was raped and killed. Meanwhile, the CBI has also submitted its charge sheet, a charge sheet that makes no mention of gang rape and treats the one accused, Sanjoy Roy, as the primary accused. Remember that ever since this horrific incident, questions have been mounting as to whether evidence that could have pointed to the involvement of others may have been permanently erased. Of course, the role of the now disgraced, ousted former principal, Sandeep Ghosh, has remained under the scanner as well. And this memorial at the Arjikor Medical College tries to capture the sense of loss, grief, and rage among so many in the medical community. I want to introduce our guest today as we try and understand what's happening with these mass resignations, what may happen next. I'm joined by Dr. Tapas Pramanik. He's, of course, a doctor at the Arjikor Medical College. Namaskar, Tapas. He was on duty on the very night that this horrific incident took place, and he's among those who has signed on to that plan of mass resignations. And we're also joined by Dr. Simran Jha. She's a junior doctor at the Calcutta National Medical College. That is the college to which the government initially tried to transfer Sandeep Ghosh, and then the students protested, and he was not allowed to take over. Tapas, what is actually happening? Explain to us. Right now, these mass resignations are symbolic, but they could turn real. Doctors are also on a hunger strike. What is the response you're getting from the government, and what is the latest trigger point for both these resignations and the hunger strike?
In 2019, in Poribaho, physical assault of Poribaho case, we also resigned as a mass registration. This is not only symbolic, but also requested the government that government should take some initiative to stop this hunger strike. Seven doctors from our side, they are not only the representative of junior doctor, they are representative of all medical fraternity and also the patient care service. They have demanded 10 demand, including the patient care services also. But there is a problem between the government and the doctor. In Supreme Court hearing, the Chief Justice of India said the confidence building measures to be taken by the government should be taken from the government side. After that, a physical assault has been taken in the Sagar Datta Medical College, where the police was inactive and silent, and this protest is outraged after that. Different medical college, every senior faculties and the service doctor like me of different medical college of West Bengal have already resigned in last 2 days because of we demanded that the government should take some initiative, but still they did not take any positive response in this hunger strike.
So,
They
so,
are juniors.
so, yeah,
They have taken the
sorry.
extreme measures. Every second is going on. Their life is at now stake, and their health condition is continuously deteriorating. We have planned for mass resign because of there is no such time available time for the individual registration, because every second is important for the life of this junior who are protesting as by hunger strike.
Yeah. So I
If
want to
if
ask
government
you.
want
I want to ask you, as I welcome Dr. Kunal Sarkar to the program, I want to ask you, you said the resignations are not symbolic, they're actual. You are among those who've resigned. What does it mean in real terms that you no longer are a serving doctor?
So if government want, we can send the individual registration as per the government protocol or Shastro Bhavan protocol. We have already mentioned to our application. If government want, but time is going on, time is just passed, and the junior doctors is suffering. Their health condition is deteriorated. If government will not take any action, we are ready to resign from our as individual resignation at any
Dr.
time.
Sar- Right. Thank you for that, Dr. Tapas. Dr. Sarkar, I remember at the height of the doctors' agitation, you had said that if any action is taken against the junior doctors, senior doctors will line up and they'll be ready with their resignations in their pocket. Dr. Tapas is saying that if there is nothing done to address what's happening with the hunger strike, then these resignations, so far symbolic, will turn into actual resignations. What's actually going on? If you had to explain this to an audience outside of Kolkata, who may have lost track of this, who may have thought that the Chief Justice ordered a list of things to be done, they're happening. Sanjoy Roy has been arrested, Sandeep Ghosh has been arrested. Everything is on the right track. Why are doctors still protesting? How would you explain it, Dr. Sarkar?
Barkha, if we are to recollect this rather disturbing and tragic story so far, we are all familiar about the crime, the aftermath, the doctors' protest against the
Mhm.
criminality in itself, and protest against the total mayhem and mismanagement that was happening in the healthcare sector. Thereafter, following the protests, I hope my chronology is correct. I think it was
Yeah.
on the 14th of September, under very dramatic circumstances, there was a meeting between the junior doctors' representatives and the chief minister at a residence. And this was after a previous few attempts having failed. Now, that was a very, highly charged up, partly emotional, partly a meeting based on certain specifics. But honestly speaking, at the end of the day, I think the junior doctors perhaps got a little bit politically outmaneuvered in that meeting,
Hmm.
because in that meeting one of their key issues was that it was to be live streamed, which they sort of they decided not to. And as you know, it was paradoxically just the day after, within 12 hours, the chief justice in the hearing spoke out and said that he was all for live streaming. So if they had waited for half a day, then obviously the live streaming could not have been objected on the same grounds which the state government had.
Yeah.
Then the state government had probably, the junior doctors put forward their grievances against the police commissioner and few other people, and these people were not really suspended. There was a bit of political semantics involved over there. So all of
Hmm.
these people were really kind of shifted they had some lateral and some upward shifting, a few positions here and there, but they were removed from what they were doing. One issue was that the health secretary would also be removed, which I don't think the chief minister agreed to, and the junior doctors at that stage probably accepted that. Now, as time went on, I think within about a week or so, there was, they resumed. The junior doctors once again felt very aggrieved. They felt that the government measures were really not sincere enough, and they restarted their strike. Now,
Yeah.
after the strike was restarted, I think a combination of certain, I think they themselves, with the people and the people in general, they really appealed to the junior doctors that, look, it's been a long time since the hospitals have really been handicapped with them not being around. So there was an appeal with the pujas around the corner. They said that please get back to work, which they did. So they did go back to work. I think that was
Hmm.
that sort of gesture, that was a very substantial gesture and acceptance on their side.
Hmm.
But they took an extremely severe course of action, which is I think 6 of them goes on hunger strike, and that goes on for about more than 3 days now, 3 to 4 days now. And since the government is still pretending that this is not happening, the senior doctors in the government sector, they have also not only joined the hunger strike, they are also handing in their mask resignations. Now,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
is as if, it is as if that I think it is largely a combination of our stubbornness, of our ego. I really think what is happening here now, that the government is reluctant, or is rather refusing to look at the facts in their eyes. Because, like the last time, like this time, the government has to submit to the fact that much of what, because you see, there were very substantive issues, they were very
Hmm.
serious issues. These were not issues that you could suddenly sort out over a 1.5 hour or 2 hour meeting on a certain rain drenched
Hmm.
evening. You couldn't do that.
Hmm.
So every time what is happening, honestly, is that we are trying to put a sellotape on a stab wound. Every time this is happening, because this is building up to a
Hmm.
climax, a very emotional climax. This is almost as if this is not a negotiation between the doctors and the government. It is almost sounding like, it is like IC 814 hijacking or something like this. And once you build up to such a climax, what happens is you have a very superficial, maybe emotional, maybe it makes for good television, but you have a very superficial solution to the problems. And when our younger colleagues, they get back to the drawing board and think that what actually has been done, there will be
Hmm.
another relapse of these grievances. So all in
Okay.
all,
Uh, yeah. All in
I
all,
think
do you support the decision by the junior doctors to go on hunger strike? Do you support it? Because Dr.
well, you see, they
Suvrankar
had
Datta is
I
at the
admit
site of the strike right now. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Sirkar. Sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
I admit, Barkha, that they were really feeling frustrated. They really felt. Now, obviously, I don't expect these youngsters to match up syllable by syllable up to the political guiles of somebody like our Chief Minister, Mamta Banerjee. So obviously, she came out with a lot of empathy. She came out with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of, with a bit of, with a touch of humanity. But all that was fine. But when they went back to the drawing board and said that, look, what exactly was our demands in detail and how much has been addressed, so many of them felt, look, that we have gone through a dramatic evening, maybe, but many of these demands remain unaddressed in its substance. And hence this
Okay.
rebound action. So rather than exposing ourselves to a series of these serious, severe rebounds, the
Yeah.
government should really, who are the parties in this dispute? The parties in this dispute is the government of West Bengal, the state health department, and the doctors in government service, which includes both the juniors and the seniors. So
Hmm.
unless there is a sincere, substantiative engagement between the two parties,
Yeah.
no amount of emotional upscaling, political upscaling is going to solve this.
So I have a number of questions, and some of the audience comments are now coming in. Colonel Pranab Roy says there's no clear affirmative action that's been taken on the security of doctors. Dr. Simran and Dr. Sivrankar are with us. Dr. Sivrankar, I'll come to you first because we may lose you. I think you're at the site where the junior doctors are on a hunger strike. Is that correct? Can you confirm that?
Yes, Barkha, we are here as a part of the 10-member national delegation from RDS all across the country who have joined the junior doctors here at the hunger site protest. And I'm sorry I could not join earlier because there was no signal in the protest site. I have come a little bit to the side.
Can you tell us the situation? How are the doctors doing, first of all?
They are mentally extremely sound right now, and they are hell bent on getting all their demands fulfilled and they are not going to inch away from the hunger strike unless all the 10 demands by the West Bengal Junior Doctors Front are fulfilled by the state government.
Now,
Physically,
doctors,
a lot of
yeah.
them have become frail, and few of them are having to even use wheelchairs to be transported to the bio toilets which have been constructed at the site of protest. And gradually, urine ketones were positive for all of them, and BP has also been on the lower side for most of them. And even they are going towards ketonemia, which means there are ketone bodies in the body, in the blood pool of the doctors, which is of significant concern right now. So yes, their health is deteriorating, but mentally they are firm in their stand and they are going to continue the hunger strike.
Now, Suvrankar, you have flown from Delhi as a mark of solidarity, and other doctors have come in from elsewhere in the country. What are you all thinking? What are you all planning next?
Barkha, we came here without knowing the situation on ground, but now after meeting these doctors who are on a hunger strike, we have realized how grave the situation is. We have had multiple meetings with the WBJDF as well as senior doctors here, and they have told us about the entire situation. They have been on hunger strike for over 86 hours right now. Still, there has been absolutely no effective action from the government or initiation from the state government to initiate a dialogue with them, which shows how apathetic the government is right now. From a national standpoint, we have multiple meetings scheduled tonight, as well as tomorrow. We will be holding press conferences from Delhi, as well as from all across the country, to decide on an unified action. And we have already spoken with the RDA leaders across the country. If the state government fails to listen to their demands, and in case, God forbid, anything happens to any of our colleagues here in West Bengal, we will be escalating the protest nationwide.
Yeah, I remember when we were speaking a few days earlier, you'd said that you would consider coming back on the streets if it was needed. A lot of people might say, "What precisely are you looking for? Why aren't you letting things unfold at their own pace? Why are you back on the streets?" Not you particularly, but the doctors who are on hunger strike. To those, and many in the Trinamool Congress, you may have noticed, are now being very aggressive and critical about the doctors on social media. So, what do you say to that, Dr. Savrankar?
I think these are just political tactics which they are trying to play. What we need to understand here is that all the demands, there are 10-point demands of WBJDF. The first is justice. Apart from that, all the rest of the 9 demands which they have are such demands, and so basic demands of workplace security, that they can be solved in a single day by a single directive by the state government, if they have the willingness to do so. The
What would be
fact that
that
they are,
directive? What would that
yes,
directive be? What would that directive be? That it
the
can be
directives
solved in
will
a
be,
single day.
yes. So the 9 demands are essentially regarding the end of a threat culture which is existing in Bengal, in the form that the unions, which used to be hosted by local party units, those need to be completely changed, and there needs to be democratically elected associations like we have in the rest of the country. Along with that, there are a lot of vacancies which have not been filled. There are a lot of discrepancies in recruitment of doctors by the West Bengal Medical Council as well as the West Bengal Healthcare Recruitment Board. So, along with that, there are 9-point demands which can be sorted by directives from the State Department as well as from the Chief Minister herself.
Okay, I want to bring in Dr. Simran now, who's been waiting patiently. What does a young woman doctor like yourself feel today, 2 months on, looking at the doctors, some of your own colleagues sitting there on a fast? Dr. Subranka telling us that not all, mentally strong, physically frail. What would you say today to many people across the country who might say, "Why are you still protesting?" What would you say?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Back in 2019, when there was a protest, I had not joined MBBS, right? Today, in 2024, I'm an intern doctor. And again, this time we are again on the street. So this tells you that over the course of 5 years, what has the government done? Nothing, right? It is just extremely sad that it took something of like such a heinous crime for the people to wake up again and to start protesting again. Now, I'll tell you the condition of our hospital. To call it deplorable would be an understatement, right? We've all had fears like there's no resting places, there are no washrooms. At night, I have had to take, patients for MRI it's like the dead of the night. Literally anybody can walk into our hospital premises at any point of time. When you, even if we consider like Sanjay Roy, how was he wandering around the hospital premises unchecked when there are doctors on duty? Now the government solution to this is to basically put women back at home, and the chief minister herself, a lady, saying that is extremely, I mean, shameful on her part, right? So as a woman, like we had these fears, right? But those fears were not real till this incident happened. This incident
Right.
made our fears extremely tangible. It could have, today it was her, it could have been me, it could have been any one of us. Because that's exactly how we stay at the hospital, right? Like on a night shifts, we just literally, like, we're so tired, we just keep our head down anyway. So as a woman, there's like a two, like you face a double threat. Firstly, for being a woman, gendered violence, and secondly, the threat that the doctors face in general, right? Now, like as Dr. Sarkar, he said, we are not politicians, right? Like we are all doctors. Our representatives are all doctors. We don't think like a politician. What, like, we honor the Supreme Court's when they told us to go back to work, we kept our word. We are back at work. But on the very few days later, at Calcutta National Medical College, also there was an incident where there was a patient party that became disruptive. There were also female intern doctors, there were male doctors as well, and no institutional FIR was filed. We went back to work, but did the government keep its word? It hasn't. For all of these years, it hasn't. We are back at work, the government hasn't. Now, what do we do? I would say that this situation is of complete hopelessness and helplessness. The hunger strike was the last resort that we had in a democracy, right? Because we've tried everything. We've been on rallies. We've sat in front of Shastra Bhavan. We've sat in front of Lal Bazaar police station. Now, next what? And this is our last resort, and the mass resignation is basically the senior doctors telling us that, look, we are with you. Now, if the basically what I would tell you is missing from the government is even the intent. We refuse to believe that it has been, that it is going to take years for them to even implement any changes. Today we look at pandals, and everywhere there are CCTV cameras, everywhere. Like, something as basic as that. It's the intent that is missing. The doctors have been on a hunger strike for all this while. Where is the intent from the government to even initiate a
So,
dialogue?
but Simran, to those the critics of the
Yeah,
agitation now, they say,
yeah.
oh, you all have been politicized. You've become proxies for a political opposition. What do you say to that? I'm not
I would,
saying that, but you must have
yeah, yeah.
heard that
Yeah,
criticism, right?
definitely. We've heard that, we've been very clear from day one that we are apolitical. We've never had any influence of any political party. We are doctors, and our demands, if you look at a 10 set demand, Barkha, it is not just for us, it's also for the public. When we talk about this threat culture, they have been taking money from the patient parties, and also, they behave like sort of these middlemen who take money from the patient party, try to admit them, and then, like, there are other people who miss out on. What do we want? We want an end of this threat culture. We want democratically elected bodies. We want a central referral system where even the patients can see where the bed is empty, where the beds are not empty. So there also the distrust that it is created between the doctors and the patient, that ends as well, right? Like if you look at our demands, first obviously being that of justice, and all the rest of it is not just for the doctors, it's also for the patient. So if and the government not wanting to initiate any dialogue with the doctors who have been on a hunger strike shows how little do they care about the doctors who are said to be, like, one of the pillars of the society. In COVID, everything came to a standstill.
How would you, before I come to Tapas, how would you describe your state of mind right now as a young woman and a young doctor, Simran?
I mean, like, my parents are scared every time I go to duty. They are scared for me, and quite rightly so. And I can't pick up my call and tell them that don't be scared, because I am scared as well. Like, because there have been no changes at all. What was there before,
Yeah.
it's the same right now. In fact, I would say I see even more incidences coming up. There was Barkha Dutt, there was Rampur. Even today, a female PGT was assaulted at PGI Chandigarh. So, on what assurance does the government? We've gone back to our jobs, but where is the protection?
Yeah.
The things that were promised to us?
Dr. Tapas, what happens next? Before I give Dr. Sarkar a kind of closing stage, what happens next? You said that the resignations are not just symbolic. What would has there been any communication from the government side? We read that the principal of the RG College was called by the Bengal government to discuss this. Has there been any progress on that?
Actually, madam, actually, I am at Arjikor. I am doing duty because there are a lot of CISF security there. But I want to say what are the responsible for these things. no officer has there is no action has been taken against any superior officer. Instead of the senior officer got price posting like DC North and the Commissioner of Police and the Health Secretary. Health Secretary has not been resigned from his post. But these things are going happen day by day. There is no action taken from the government side. There is no dialogue from the government side to the junior doctors. We are the faculties or the service doctor repeatedly requesting for the government to come on the table and discuss with the junior doctors to stop the hunger strike. But government is not responding. This is the problem. But I personally demanded in various platforms, the government, central government should take the action and they give us the central security like going on in the Arjikar Medical College CISF security. There should be some legislation. Law and order is the state
Yeah.
subject. So if we want the central security, then the legislation should be taken in the parliament. So we are trying for the deputation in the towards the central ministry for the central legislation for central security around the all medical college, because Chief Justice of India already said that the in government medical college there are 18 to 24 years old medical student, they are the vulnerable. So their
Yes.
security is the most important thing. So
Yes.
I also demand and I also
Yeah. No, that's an important point. But what Dr. Sarkar, I mean, the point is that how do you get momentum back in terms of, it's the Pujo sort of time right now. People, as happens in so many other tragedies, people move on, the media moves on. We've tried to return the focus to this. There are doctors on the streets on in falling health conditions, even if they're mentally strong. But as a senior of the profession, if you had to sort of advise the doctors, what would you say today? Equally, if you had to say something to the West Bengal government, what would you say today?
Barkha, as a reasonably helpless citizen of the state, I think the first thing I would, request in whatever gesture, posture possible to the government is that this whole thing has gone on too far and too long for us to look sideways. So the government will have to engage with this issue with all its wisdom, with all its administrative experience, and with essentially two parties engaged in this kind of a conversation, one facing north and one facing south, can never come to any sensible conclusion. Secondly, I personally rue and regret the fact that the supervision of this entire affair did not stay with the High Court, but drifted off to a rather distant and disconnected Supreme Court, who had more comments than substantive action so far. I think they have rather been, perhaps wholly unintentionally, they have been a part of the problem rather than being a part of the solution thus far. I
Why do you
think
say that? Why do you say that?
because you see, it is a very strange situation. I'm sure their intentions are very honorable, but they are neither in a full-fledged hearing because the charge sheets were still not submitted. They are neither acting as an officially enforcing arbitrators. If they were, and if the will of the arbitrator, if the statute, if the decision of the arbitrators were to be enforced, then that would have given some finality to the issue, which they did not. So we had a lot of placebos. We had a lot of what should be done kind of statements, one following after the other, interspersed with certain very disruptive comments from lawyers who did not really know what was happening on the ground. So this really exercise, probably with the noblest of intentions, hadn't really helped the cause of this disturbance even one iota. It has not helped this cause at all. Now,
Now what, sir? Now what? Now
now
what?
I really think if somebody somewhere, I do not know whether it is political or bureaucratic, whatever, I fear for the wisdom. I fear for the wisdom if somebody is seriously advising the government that let the liquid go beyond the boiling point, and once it comes to some kind of an unmanageable crescendo, that we are going to have a hell break loose firefighting exercise. I really fear for that wisdom. First of all, somebody with the authority of Mamata Banerjee should not have allowed this hunger strike to start. She should have re-engaged with the junior doctors, said that look, if we haven't sorted out certain creases in the last meeting, let's sit down again.
Yeah.
Because you see, if you go through these demands, they have been made with the right spirit. These are young, idealistic students. Some of their demands are short term, some of their demands are medium term, some of their demands are very long term, which is probably common to any healthcare establishment in any part of the country.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying that you ignore them. These are idealists. They speak for the good of the profession, for the good of the service. But you
Yeah.
needed to sit down, classify the problems, that what are the short term issues. This engagement has to be substantial. This engagement has to be point wise. This engagement has to follow a timeline, a kind
Yeah.
of emotional 1 hour conclusion to a very specific set of demands to do with one of the most complex services possible in our society is really not serving any purpose. So
Right.
I was really aghast that under the stewardship of this present government that the hunger strike at all started. It should have been intercepted at that stage, and now it has. You have these daily incidents of sometimes the police stopping water, toilets, etc. Honestly, this kind of meaningless, childish fracas is not going to solve anything. So I really think with the current authority, the current experience the present government has, whether you are for the party or against the party is immaterial. She
Right.
has to, the chief minister has to lead from the front. She now has to come out, engage with the doctors, sit down with the set of demands, and get it sorted out with a time scale. Not all of these problems will disappear. We cannot pretend that none of the problems existed. They existed in my time, they still exist in Simran's time, they still exist in Tapas's time.
Yeah, well, that is the grim note on which we have to leave it there, I'm afraid. But I think, as you said, Dr. Sarkar, um, this is happening, and so it cannot be unseen. And there are young people on the street on a hunger strike with flailing physical conditions, which no government can actually ignore, and nor can the medical community. We leave it there to Dr. Tapas, to Dr. Simran, and to Dr. Sarkar. Thank you, and we will continue to follow what happens next. We hope that there is a resolution. Thank you very much, and take care.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.